So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited to introduce our next guests. They are part of the Nielsen empire, and they track things, and they see trends before they become trends, and they also help people understand what's going on in times that are very dynamic. And before I start asking them questions, why don't you explain a little bit what each of you do and what you do vis-a-vis each other, and why don't we start over there and come this way.
All right, my name is Mainak Mazumdar. I lead the data science function of Nielsen Company, and so I'll maybe explain a little bit of Nielsen as well. How many of you guys have heard of Nielsen? Okay, there's quite a few of you. I would say it's the largest market research company in the world. We are about I think last I saw is 104 markets globally. Our business actually outside the United States is larger than the US, although people in the US knows Nielsen because of TV ratings. We have two types of measurement. One, we measure what people are watching, what media they consume, and this is in 59 countries globally. You know, who is watching, who is consuming, when, where, outdoor homes, on your mobile phones, or on a bus, or at a home, or offices, or elevators. When you see a screen, we track all of that. And in the cars, so if you're listening to radio, we track how many, when, where, and as well as the connect, whether you're consuming media across different platforms, which is becoming more and more important. And I think for this audience, you know, we feel pretty excited to be here. First, obviously, thanks, John, and for the invite. We see huge opportunity in this space. We've been tracking this space for the last few years, and obviously it's been terrific all day learning a little bit. But we'll also share some of our data with you guys, what we see in the marketplace. We acquired a company called SuperData recently, and given the trend in the marketplace in the AR and VR space and gaming, and SuperData has been actually a leader in the gaming for a while, and Stephanie Llamas, I mean, she's here with me, and she's going to talk about the SuperData. So why don't you do the introduction as well?
Sure. Yes. So my name is Stephanie Llamas. I head our XR and research and strategy initiatives at SuperData. SuperData is an interactive market measurement group. So we look at different types of what we call interactive media in terms of games, streaming video content for gamers, but also the XR industry as a whole. So not just games, but enterprise and consumer market trends and market sizing. So SuperData, we've been doing this quite a while. In terms of AR and VR, we've been measuring the market for about 4 or 5 years. So we're quite familiar with it. And our goal is really to provide a data-driven view of the market. So we, in terms of our methodology, we collect point-of-sale transaction data for different types of interactive media. And we do also some qualitative research, but we also have a data network called the XR Data Network, and we're always happy to discuss that with anyone who's interested. But we have partners in the industry who provide us with hard data that we're able to use in order to measure out the market. So it's not just sort of a word-of-mouth approach. It's actually driven by numbers and data.
So in 1969, there was a TV show that was put on Friday nights, and a lot of people say that's what killed it, Star Trek. And
right.
You know, the teenagers who would want to see it were out, and that was not a good time. And I think Nielsen, or the equivalent that was tracking it, said, oh, you know, there's not much interest in it. And yet it did so well in syndication, and it's done very well. I'm curious what do you think Nielsen's gotten right about AR, and I kind of break out AR from VR, and what do you think may not be right or is unknown, because this is a new space, and I thank you guys for seeing it as a important space to track.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. We, as I said, we've been looking at this space for a while, and it was interesting. I sat through some of the sessions this morning. Looks like there's a massive application on enterprise side. which was a kind of a surprise to me because I didn't anticipate the level of intensity on the enterprise level as the AR is coming in as a tech, and also driving really value across the chain. And I think the Dr. Fan, that session was really captivating for me. I think on the what we are seeing, and Stephanie has more insights about this, is on the gaming side. So the thing, what's interesting for us is the social. If you look at the history of internet last 10 years, social has become a phenomenal gateway for a lot of value creation. And we see there's a high correlation between gaming, entertainment, and social. So our bet, especially for AR, VR, is that's a gateway for this tech to really get into the consumer's hand. And then for me, or for us as a company, for our clients, they are looking for monetization platform. They're looking at where consumers are playing games, where they're spending times, where they're interacting, how they create value, create communities. And I think that's where that's the angle that we take, John, is to come from that angle and say, look, where this tech can really activate broader participation on the consumer side, and we see social, that part. And I think our early indication is that that's where I think we'll see some good, what I call a multiplier effect, as you're saying, the TV. Yes, those TV shows, Seinfeld and Star Trek, I think those are the top ones, right? Nobody beats those ratings, even today. And but we see definitely, the gaming as it happened early in Facebook, through games, suddenly the explosion of that platform, and we feel similarly here. We don't predict. We are not in that business.
Yeah.
We track. We are a data-driven company, and so we sense that that's where the growth is going to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
So did you want to add to this? Because I have another question that I'm excited to ask.
Sure. So, I think something that we've really tried to understand is, Arthur Clarke, the author of 2001: Space Odyssey, something that I've always thought about in terms of XR is in order to understand the limits of the possible, you must go beyond into the impossible. And so we try to think and put our historical caps on in terms of the overall media historical narrative. Going back to what you said about Star Trek, what was it like when Hulu was impossible in terms of conceptualization by the consumer or by brands or television or so on? So when tracking this, we try to really understand it as what does that look like in the next few years based on the present data and evidence that we have now, but understanding how these trends have been over the last 200 years of modern media. If you look at those trends, they're very similar. They overlap in much the same way. So really trying to understand what goes beyond our current understanding of media in general, and using data to drive the current tracking of the industry.
So I've heard, I went to pick up my son yesterday and at home, at a friend's house, and at their home I saw a Celtics game. I was like, this is interesting, in the middle of a school day. And then I realized the child was playing a video game, and that it just looked so real. I thought it was a Celtics game. I know, I've heard that gaming, there's more money being made in gaming than in movies. And I think just recently, more money is being made on, more people are watching TV on the internet than on traditional television outlets. I'm wondering, do you think we're going to have a point where instead of buying a brick, a rectangle on a smartphone, we're going to have AR enhanced devices that we're going to get all our information, and that there's going to be a point where that line crosses, or that sort of speculation on the future, and you're more kind of tracking what's going on day to day?
Yeah, on the video side, I mean, I think what you're talking about, we track video, right? So it used to be linear TV, which is a box, and over time now it's just that glass. You have the over the top, you have Netflix, other services coming in, you have on your devices. So for us, our measurement strategy is agnostic of the technology. We are relentless in understanding consumer behavior. In some countries, we have business in 104 countries. In Africa and Asia, they still do the old ways. We still have people knocking on the door and trying to understand how they're consuming media. Here, it's different. We have technology sensors and meters to track information. So I can see a scenario where there is going to be, these all things are going to come together. I think right now looks like these are what I call independent tech trying to demonstrate value. And we saw that terrific, today all day. It's been a terrific session all day, by the way. And I learned a lot trying to see how that this tech is creating value for consumers, but also for businesses. But yeah, we definitely see a huge potential as it comes together. Absolutely.
So on the stage 2 years ago, we had a colonel who flew F-16s or some important jets, and he and his team kept New England safe. And he would scramble the jets if there was any concerns. And I said, this conference is about AR. He said, I don't know what that is. And then, we talked about the helmet that he needs to fly the jets. And he realizes that it's all AR, but he just didn't call it AR. Bob Metcalf, when he was here the first time, he said, AR, oh, that's accounts receivable. So it's not. I mean, the way we use it, it's augmented reality. Do you think people are experiencing AR but don't even realize it? And is that going to make it hard to track as this contextual computing kind of weaves into our lives? And then I also am wondering, I feel like the pendulum's sort of shifting where people are worried that we're exposing the next generation to too much screens. And people are saying, you need to cut back on your time, the blue light at night or what you're giving a child. And are you seeing any trends where people are trying to kind of cut down on consumption of entertainment from screens? So 2 questions.
So to speak to your first question, absolutely consumers are unaware and they shouldn't have to do their homework on what this terminology means. I mean, XR, VR, AR, whatever it is, it's really not about them.
HR, heightened reality?
Everything, mixed reality, all kinds of things. It's not their job, right? It's our job to provide, the industry's job to provide experiences that enhance their media consumption or everyday life, but we don't, it's not about necessarily teaching them something about what the history is of AR, what the inner mechanics are. And I think, Charlie Fink is, if you don't know who he has a wonderful book that I also contributed to about the metaverse, and we kind of have in the book a back and forth about the terminology and what's the proper terminology and whatever. But at the end, the idea that we both came to was it doesn't really matter. It matters how consumers are thinking about those individual experiences. And it doesn't affect the way that at least we're able to track AR, because if it was solely survey-based, sure, then people wouldn't really understand when we say, do you experience AR? But we do have data that comes directly from those applications. So we are able to track beyond, the consumer awareness of what AR actually means.
And people predicted that 3D TV would be a thing, and it's not really a thing right now.
Yeah.
You have some data. Did you want to explain that? Sorry.
Yeah, coming back to yours, saying on screen time, actually, no, screen time is not decreasing. It's actually increasing.
But I think people are concerned about that.
It's the concern. Obviously, there's concern about a lot of stuff, right? But when it comes to media and entertainment, especially for millennials, younger, it's not decreasing. Actually, it's increasing. We see on average, U.S. households, how many hours do they watch television? Anybody knows this? How
many hours?
Yeah, on a day, per day. What?
6.
Well, somebody said 4. That's about right. It used to be 4.5. It's declined a little bit, but imagine 4 hours of media time on average. That means people have 6, 7, 8 hours, and then people have 2 or 1 hours. We consume a lot of media, and this is across the globe, not only United States. So whether you like it or not, screen time is not declining. In fact, we are doing double duty, right? We're watching TV, we are doing something on our iPad or a phone. A lot of people are doing messaging now on the phone. So it's actually adding up, the media time. And it's a terrific time for marketers. Yep. So marketers love it because now they can monetize your eyeballs. And that's where our job is to make sure the measurement is in place. So folks who are here, we're trying to monetize your tech, your businesses, you have an avenue to do that, right?
Yep. Yep. Do you want to, I know you have a slide or two, do you want to talk about them? Can we
Absolutely.
get those up?
Something that's really important to us to show is that monetization models are something that are a challenge, particularly with consumer revenue, which is what this shows. And that's why there's sort of a slow upstart with AR versus VR, where you can see the lighter color, that's headset sales. Headset sales, the monetization is clear. You sell a headset and that's that.
It's binary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with mobile AR, we're still working that out. And so in terms of we were talking about brands and the ability for advertisers to help content creators monetize, then you have real potential over the next couple of years. It's just understanding and helping to understand that this is something that people need to kind of jump into as first movers, but with an understanding of their strategy and with numbers like this that can help you see what the potential will be and in how long. So if we go to the next slide, this shows what that current potential and opportunity is. So we know that Apple was first mover in terms of providing capabilities for augmented reality development in phones, which is why we see so many iOS devices that are capable compared to Android devices, even though Android devices 100% are more pervasive worldwide.
Right.
Than iOS. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that iOS was a first mover. So current opportunities we see, right now through data is that iOS is a great opportunity to access a market where you do have a lot of applications, social applications that are being used quite a bit. We've seen a few retail applications during this conference that are really innovative and interesting. So it's about understanding the current market, but really using that data to get a sense of where your future opportunities will be and how you can tackle that as a first mover. So not getting drowned out by other first movers that might come before you, but also not being overly eager in believing that the market's going to be $100 billion tomorrow. Sort of tapering those expectations, but really going in with a sense of what the current opportunities are.
Great. Well, I absolutely adore David Kenny. I know he's recently joined your team, and it seems like you have a lot of active leaders such as yourselves. And I think as people here are navigating the AR space, understanding this data to inform them as to how to make decisions as where they put their resources is very valuable. And so last question, what number in 10 years is AR $50 billion market, $100 billion, $200 billion? Are you in the business of predicting that, or is that more some of the other companies in your space?
Yeah, we don't predict.
Yeah,
we
will reflect what it is.
Yeah, we are data driven. We collect. We get all the point of sale data from. This is a part that Stephanie was just talking about: gaming industry, credit card, data, as well transaction on retail. We get Walmart and all the data sets, right? So we're a data company, and I think this is not this tech is nothing any different. I think it's early days. And I saw that all day. It's very early days, extremely promising. But the key for us, what we feel is that there are some specific platforms where they're going to converge. Socially is going to be the big. Mm-hmm. Anything to do with entertainment or simulation of reality or the immersive, interactive. Social becomes, social just activates it.
So the network effect, right?
Exactly. So and I think that's, I was kind of surprised I didn't hear much about that today.
Yeah. Bill Gates wrote his first book, Road Ahead, didn't mention the internet once, but
and
he's
I
writing
think,
about it now.
If you are a startup or you're working in this space, I would say there got to be a way to move this towards more social.
Great. Well, for those of you who didn't know about Nielsen, now you know. For those of you who know about Nielsen, here are some of the leaders in the company. Thank you very much.